right, Stephanie. Yes, Craig. Gear up and fall in. I'm here, Craig. What's the plan? I'm going to send you out. You're going to win all the debate. You're going to kick ass. You're going to kill in my name. I'm going to send you out to... I'm going to I'll kill him, Craig. I'm all for it. Let's do this. Let's do this. I'll go Old Testament on their ass. They'll be sorry they ever met me. Good girl. Good girl. Get fired up. What's the plan? What am I going to debate him on? Resurrection? No, not that one. What am I going to do? Kalam. I said Kalam, you buttholes. No, not the Kalam. Calm down. That sounds like a convincing argument. Relax. We're going to go pre-sup on him. Come again. We're going to go pre-sup on him, Carrie. Carrie, what's your name again? Stephanie. Stephanie. We're going to go pre-sup on them. Pre-sup? Are you joking, Greg? Come on, man. Work with me, bro. I love your videos, but that's just going to work. Yeah, of course it's going to work. We're going to go pre-sup on them. They're going to be. You can still go Old Testament on their ass, and you can still make them sorry that they ever met you. And we're going to do it through presuppositional apologetics. You mean like the Darth Dawkins crap? Sorry, bro. You're on your own with that one, pal. What, Stephanie? Come on. Not interested, bro. You're on your own. That's the weakest option on the table. Sorry, not doing it. I'm sure you're, normally I'm going with you 100%. You're on your own with that one. All right, so Stephanie's not into it. So let me explain why, and maybe Stephanie will change her mind. Not changing it, Craig. I'm not going pre-sup. I want to go Old Testament on their ass. That's what I want to do. And that's just not going to work in pre-sup. Sorry to disappoint you. I'm out. Okay, so Stephanie's not going to go presuppositional and hence not use the arguments to go, in fact, Old Testament on your ass, which is too bad. Why? Because we'd win. Now, so a lot of you are already saying, pre-sups, isn't that Darth Dawkins? Don't those totally suck? Well, they've been given don't they totally suck? No, they do not. Matter of fact, the logical structure of them is really robust and really strong and virtually indefensible. That's why if I can win Stephanie around to agree, she will go out and she will go Old Testament on your ass. She will. She's going to own you. Why? All right, let's start at the beginning. They're heavily influenced by Kantian, not Kant, Immanuel Kant. Now, I'll start here and then see where I go. This is my first crack at trying to really explain this thoroughly. So, if I ramble and if I go all over the place, start saying weird things and singing songs, just take it as a Greg Reed video. Okay, it's my first crack at this, so let's see if this works. Immanuel Kant noticed in his Critique of Pure Reason, I believe that's where this is sourced to, I'm not sure. I tried to read Critique of Pure Reason, I couldn't get through it. I'm sure it's fine. Yeah, I'm sure it's fine. Really good book, Greg. Yeah, I'm sure. I couldn't get through it. Either it's too dense or I'm too dense. Either way, but his influence still resonates to today. You have sense data, okay? And then you have your metaphysical priors. You have your sense data and you process it through your sense-making machinery, which is your metaphysical priors. Now, in the 20th century, there was a type of philosophy called logical positivism. It has still heavily influences the atheist community to this day, promise. And it was one of the weakest philosophies on the table, lasted for about 70 years, and then more or less everybody was done with it. Why? It's really obviously self-refuting. Really obviously so. I'm not going to go into it. Most of you already know that already. It lasted about 70 years. If you talk about Plato or Aristotle, they are still with us today, 2,000 years after they're still influencing our thought patterns. So it tells you something. Now, logical positivism can be traced most probably back to Kant. Not Kant, Comte, C-O-M-T-E. And what it was originally was an attempt to do science and or philosophy without metaphysics altogether. Without metaphysical priors. Why can it not be done? It can't be done because if you yourself do not have a coherent metaphysical priors, if you do not have coherent philosophy undergirding your thought life, your brain creates one for you. So you have one, whether you want to or not. It's just when your brain creates it for you, it's totally incoherent and makes no sense. I promise. I promise that's the truth. I discovered that debating. All of you listen to my Debate Me Bro. A lot of you listen to my Debate Me Bro analysis, right? Everyone liked it. Everyone seemed to like it. Okay. I debated a couple of almost Debate Me Bros on Twitter. A lot of the times you see tropes that come out of the atheist community, right? Some of the tropes are robust and strong and defensible. There's one in particular that's great. I want to believe what's true. Every atheist would agree to this one. This one is strong and good and true and valid. I want to believe what's true, and I want to proportion my beliefs to the evidence. I want my confidence level to directly correspond to the evidence presented. That's a great maxim. A lot of atheists don't do it, though. And then that with critical thinking will get you the whole ballgame. You will not fall for anything. But a lot of atheists don't do it. They only give lip service to critical thinking. That's why they don't notice when there are tropes in the atheist community that float around that don't make any real sense. So the one that they came to defend is a common one. Arguments aren't evidence. Now, on its face, that's absurd. And I had I thought a pretty slam dunk way to just explain it. I don't think it needs to be defended. That's an indefensible idea. So if you go to Einstein's theory of relativity, I tried to tweet this out. Okay, Einstein was famous for using thought experiments, which are a form of argumentation, and he used the thought experiments to what? To evidence his propositions, evidence his ideas, evidence his theories. End of discussion, right? Bang, game over, end of discussion, correct? Okay. Said I had two debate me bros, or, they're not quite debate me bros because both of them are a little bit smarter. But the one guy in particular, Dr. Matthew Hunt, a lot of you will know, he's kind of a clown, partially because he's just smart enough to think that he's really super smart. He says all this condescending garbage to you. I swear to God, he thinks he's like Mr. Physics. I'm going to call him Mr. Physics from now on because he thinks he's Mr. Physics. But he says all this incoherent crap that doesn't make any sense. And he goes, glad I could sort that out for you. Happy to clear that up for you. He says all this condescending garbage while he's saying things that don't make any sense. And then the other guy, double dumbass is what I'm going to call you from now on. Fool. Why? Because you blocked me for no reason. I'll also call you little child. Should I call you fourth grader? Honestly, he blocked me for no reason. No reason. He said to me, I was explaining to them why thought experiments count as evidence, which I shouldn't have to explain. It's pretty obvious that they do. Why? Because nobody would ever concoct a thought experiment otherwise. They think they're really smart, but they were being really dumb. What they were arguing is basically indefensible. Arguments aren't evidence. There's a land of incoherence where it makes sense to them. Why? Because they have let me slow down a little. So, double dumbass. Double dumbass is what I'm going to call you from now on. And you're going to show up in my videos as the butt of my jokes if you do not unblock me. There's no reason for you to block me. He blocked me because he said to me, I was talking about thought experiments, and he goes, are they empirically verified for? Huh? They both said that to me, independent of each other. That's where I started to get wise to the fact that there's an incoherent thought process going on. That question makes no sense. Are they empirically verified for? Thought experiment. I said to him, dude, that question shows deep confusion. Do you not know what a thought experiment is? That's not too much. That's not too snarky. That's just the truth. And he goes, don't get snarky with me, pal. Don't get snarky with me. So I'm not getting snarky. Your question shows, your question makes zero sense in light of what a thought experiment actually is. Then he blocks me. That's deeply childish too. So you're childish as well. Probably it's the same thing. Here's the Christian talking about physics, talking about Einstein. Can't wait to school the Christian. He's so dumb, can't wait to show him how he's dumb. They probably weren't even clearly reading my tweets. Why? Because that's normally what happens with those type of atheists. They don't really engage properly in the arguments, and they don't fully understand what's being talked about, but they're somehow mysteriously way smarter than you, and they can't wait to tell you how smart they are. Dr. Matthew Hunt all but says that. Glad I can sort that out. When he's saying incoherent things. Both, keep in mind, both of them said to me, independent of each other, can they be empirically verified for? Thought experiments. Huh? How exactly does that work, guys? You take your thought out of your brain and you put on a lab coat and you run tests. It doesn't make any sense. A lot of times atheists, there are tropes in atheist land that make literally no sense at all. And I was trying to figure out why, and I think I stumbled on the answer by debating those two goofballs. And yeah, double dumbass. Prior to that, you'd never done me any wrong, but you were really deeply childish. And if you go look at his timeline, I bet you $1,000 he's right now debating a flat earther or a young earth creationist and thinking he's the smartest guy in town. Why? Because that's why he thinks he's the smartest guy in town. Same ditto from Dr. Matthew Hunt. And no, neither of them are capable of cogent thought. What they were defending was literally indefensible. An argument is a form of evidence. And then he tried to bring up the Kalam, so I guess it makes sense in his messed up worldview that the Kalam isn't valid. Okay, fine, maybe the Kalam's not valid, but if a Christian comes up with an argument that literally proves God, that would be what? Really powerful supporting evidence for the proposition God does not exist. Arguments are evidence, guys. Just own it, eat it, swallow it. And double dumbass, if you want to debate this further, I could take that humble pie, shove it directly into your arrogant, ignorant face if you so choose. You should never have blocked me. That was pathetic. I can't. I'll take a piece of humble pie. We can have a debate over our argument's evidence, and I will take that piece of humble pie that you refuse to eat politely. Okay, didn't say anything all that outlandish. Your tweet showed deep confusion. Then he starts bragging. After he blocks me, he starts bragging. I've been doing thought experiments since I was 10 years old. Yeah, and you've been empirically verifying for him. How's that work? Exactly. Doesn't make any sense. So why are these ostensibly intelligent guys having floating around with arguments that make literally no sense at all? Because they have been too heavily influenced by logical positivism. Occurred to me as I was debating them. Now, logical positivism is a movement, is a philosophy that's roughly 70 years old in the making. I think I might have already said this. If I'm repeating myself, I apologize. I don't remember if I already said this. It can be traced back to Auguste Comte, C-O-M-T-E. It was literally an attempt to do thought without metaphysical priors, to do thought without metaphysics, and to do science without, in a way, to do science without math. Now, with math, it's really obvious. All of you basically understand that science needs math, or at least physics, right? If not actually science, that's too much for you to that's too much for me to swallow, Craig. If that's too swallow it. If that's too much for you to swallow, then let's go to, you understand that physics needs math, correct? Everybody understands this. Okay. Math, as was proved by Gödel's incompleteness theorem, math cannot be empirically verified for. You have to assume the mathematical axiom in order to use the mathematical axiom. Think of the genesis of the word axiom. It is rooted to axiomatic, self-evident. You use the mathematical axiom, and that's the proof. You can't empirically verify for the mathematical axiom. That's Gödel's incompleteness theorem in a nutshell. If I didn't explain that all that well, most of you already understand. A lot of you already know that. Now, what has this got to do with pre-suppers, Craig? What has this got to do with Darth Dawkins? I'm getting there. Slow down. We'll get there very slowly. We're easing our way into the argumentation, and Stephanie's going to come. She's going to kick your ass. I'm still not buying it, Craig. Okay, so not yet. I haven't won her over yet. Still not buying it, pal. Yeah, so far weak sauce. Not really convinced. All right. So, how is this going to turn into a slam dunk argument for theism? It's not going to turn into a slam dunk argument for theism. So, if you're an atheist, take deep breaths. Whew, yeah, deep breaths, relax. I'm not going to prove God, and I'm not saying that this argument is going to do anything like proving a God to you. JB, deep breath. So, phew, thanks, Craig. Thanks, Craig. That's my JB. Thank you, Craig. You're welcome. Deep breaths. What I am going to do, and what the argument is really philosophically robust and really, really, really correct. The philosophy and the undergirdings of the argument are absolutely sound, really philosophically robust. The reason why the Darth Dawkins version doesn't work is because I have no idea what he's trying to accomplish. It's a mess. It doesn't make any sense. But the Jay Dyer version and the Tyler Vila version are actually really sound and robust. When they were debating Matt Dillahunty, I've kept this in the back of my mind for 2 years. The only person who went into a proof of God argument against Matt Dillahunty who ever put anything like a point on the board. And they may have even done a lot more than that. In at least the Tyler Vila debate, or at least the Jay Dyer debate, it may have been in both debates, but Matt Dillahunty said this in at least the Jay Dyer debate, probably both debates. Yes, the laws of logic exist, and they are transcendent, they are immaterial, invisible, and transcendent. Come again? He said, yes, the laws of logic. Matt Dillahunty said this. This is big. He said, yes, the laws of logic exist, and they are immaterial, invisible, and transcendent. Now, let me ask you a really interesting question. Why did he not just admit that there's a God? Why? No way. God, why? I'm not saying he did just admit that there's a God, but why not? Because that's not your personal sky fairy, Craig. You're not going to pull one over on us this time. The laws of logic aren't going to sentence him to hell for touching his wiener all the time. Okay, granted, fair point. Fair point. Probably true. No, indeed, the laws of logic are not going to sentence Matt Dillahunty to hell for touching his wiener all the time. Stephanie might. As long as he doesn't go near New Kids on the Block. You watch New Kids on the Block, you're going to burn in hell. What's that from? It's not the devil, Craig. Everybody knows that. Come on. Get real. If you guys watch New Kids on the Block, you sinners, you're gonna burn, you're going straight to hell. New Kids on the Block? Yeah, it's of the devil. Trust me on this one. All right, Stephanie, thank you for helping. Maybe stay out of it for a little bit, Stefan. That's a little bit weird to process. I'm telling you, dude, you're being too easy on these guys. They watch that New Kids on the Block. That's straight to hell. Straight to hell they will go. All right, so Matt Dillahunty openly admitted to the fact that the laws of logic exist and that they're invisible, immaterial, transcendent. Now, why is that not a God? Now, why did he do it? Because the logical structure of the argument forced that conclusion. The only way I'm going to use a presup argument is not to prove God. Where J. Dyer errs is he goes too far with the argumentation. The argumentation succeeds up to a point, and then he tries to go, the reason why Matt Dillahunty agreed to it is because the logical structure of the argument forces at least some type of conclusion, and indeed, the preconditions of intelligibility is the tagline, are actually rooted in your metaphysical priors and or mathematical axioms. And without them, you can't make coherent sense of the world. If you do not have a metaphysical prior, your brain supplies one for you. That's why those guys were totally incoherent, even though they ostensibly think they're smart, because they've gotten a little bit from atheist land, they've taken a little bit from logical positivism, they're heavily influenced by the idea that science and empiricism is everything, it's so awesome, I'm so smart because I know science. That's what's floating around in their brain. It is not a coherent philosophy or thought process. That's why they say really weird, really jarring things and think they make sense when they absolutely don't. Trust me on this. I've talked to Matt Hunt a few times on Twitter now. It is like talking to an intelligent jigsaw puzzle. I promise. Because he says really jarring, weird things that don't make any sense at all. Because the underlying premise is self-refuting. I can think clearly without philosophy. You can't. He even said it a few times in that. If you go look at the Twitter debate where I got blocked, not by Matt Hunt. He's too arrogant to block anybody. I bet you he's never blocked anyone. He's too arrogant. I just taught Craig everything he needs to know. I bet you even now he's listening to this going, I did school you. I bet you anything. He's too arrogant. He's like, the other guy's actually somewhat intelligent enough that he started knowing I was right. He started asking me questions. I'm like, no, you're finally starting to get it and see that I'm right. That's why he blocked me, because he couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle it. It's like, he got beat by a girl. You got beat by a girl, nah. You got beat by the Christian, nah. I swear to God, he couldn't handle it. Because I didn't say anything all that outrageous. This tweet shows deep confusion. Do you not know what a thought experiment is? He could have clearly explained what a thought experiment was instead of bragging how many times he used it. Can you empirically verify for a thought experiment? No, that question makes no sense. The question makes no sense. It's deeply rooted in logical positivism, or a form of it that floats around in the atheist community, where empiricism is like this mystical word that solves everything, and I don't even know what they think empiricism actually is. So let's go back to Kant for just a brief second. You have your sensory inputs, the sense data. All empiricism does is verify the sense data so that you know the sense data are in fact facts. That's all empiricism is doing. It's not some mystical thing that proves all things right and right. Science isn't some mystical agent that solves problems. If you go to science with metaphysical priors that are all over the place, the thought produced by you will be jumbled and all over the place and incoherent. If you do not actively construct your metaphysical priors, if you do not actually think about and try and plug in sense-making data into your brain that makes sense of the world, that's accurate and informed, your brain does it for you in ways that are incoherent and all over the place. That's why you go talk to someone who's like a white trash guy and their brains are all over the place. Why? Because they never educated. A lot of times those people are actually really intelligent. Trust me, some of the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life, drug dealers. Promise. Guys are smart as hell. You had to watch your back all the time with those guys. Why? Because they were really intelligent. And they were street smart up the wazoo. And they respected me immediately right away. Why? Because I'm more like them. They recognized that I was one of them. I swear to God, they respected me immediately. They did. Because I understood where they were in the pecking order, and they could tell that I got it. And what they wanted more than anything else was prestige. That prestige comes from recognizing that guy's place in the pecking order. And the less you can look them in the eye and say, I get it, I know who you are. And then they'll know, this guy knows who I am. And they'll tell everyone to keep away from me. I swear to God, they'll protect you. Because they're the leader. They're the smartest guy in the hood, promise. And you can bond with them immediately. Just look them in the eye in the correct way and go, I get it, I know who you are. And they'll be immediately impressed with you, and they'll signal to everybody, all the goons and the thugs, hands off this guy. Why? He's with me. That's what they'll say, promise. Dude, I used to go to the hood all the time. Why? Buy drugs. And never, ever, ever, ever got jumped. Never. I'd go to the hood and drink till 4 a.m. Never would ever squared off again. Never got in a fight in the hood. Why? Because I played the people correctly. I sized up the situation really accurately, really correctly, survived on instinct, and did it right. Promise. Okay, that was a little too much for this video, but I promise that's all true. That's all true, guys. Play it back slowly, listen to it, check it out. All will check out. Drug dealers are the most intelligent people in the ghetto. They run the ghetto. Crime lords, those guys own everybody else. They're smart. I'm not saying they're moral or good or decent. They're not moral, good, or decent. I understand that. Yeah. Okay, get that part. But they're smart, and they tell everybody else what to do. And then there's a goomba thugs who do all the work for them. Those guys are actually dangerous, but they're not in charge of anything. Why? Because the gang leader, the smart guy, terrorizes them. I'm not sure if he's ever fought. He's probably never fought in his life. Why? Because he's smart enough not to fight. You can get hurt fighting. But he's got them all thinking that he could kill them easily in a fight. And he's just, he swear to God, he terrorizes them. That's why they do everything he says. So, getting back to the question at hand. Your metaphysical priors, if you do not actively construct them yourself, if you do not read and think and grab onto ones that have trended through history, for example, Platonism and Aristotle, they've trended through history and been really influential. Why? Because they help you think clearly and process information correctly. They are, in fact, the preconditions of intelligibility. That is a correct statement by the presuppers. Where they go too far is they say, you can't think without God, and J. Dyer makes the argument go too far. Ergo God, ergo the Christian God. It doesn't work like that. So the only thing Stephanie and I are going to do, Stephanie, when you go over yet, are you going to join me in this? Are you going to go pre-sup and go Old Testament in their ass? Yes or no? I'm getting there, Greg. I'm not sure yet. Okay. I'm getting to you, right, though? You're kind of getting it a little? So the only thing when I send Stephanie to go Old Testament on your ass, okay, the only thing she is going to do, she's not going to prove God to you. JB, take a relax. She's not going to prove God to you, JB. Keep your ties sheathed for now. For now, keep your ties in your pocket, JB. Why? She's not going to prove God to you. We're, thank God. See how ironic? He said, thank God. Thank God, Greg. Okay, see? You see the irony? So Stephanie is going to get you, the atheist, in a way far more gentlemanly and far more intelligent than Darth Dawkins, to take your metaphysical priors out in the cold light of day and examine them. Are these coherent? Do they make sense? Do these correspond to reality? Something every atheist. Why is this going to be so easy? Why is this a slam dunk? Because every intelligent philosophical atheist is doing this already. It's the reason Emerson Green started becoming a panpsychist. Why? Because he started looking deeply at the hard problem of consciousness and said to himself, self? This, I like that. Said to himself, self? This hard problem of consciousness is a real thing. It's a really hard problem. So he started changing his metaphysical priors in response, automatically upgrading his metaphysical priors and trying to find one that more in line with the data points. All intelligent atheists are doing this already. I'll give you the perfect example. Two perfect examples. How this occurred to me is the first time I heard of Thomas Nagel, the atheist philosopher, right? He's the guy who wrote What It's Like to Be a Bat. I was like, wow, that's really interesting. I wonder how he stayed an atheist. Is he still an atheist was my first question. How did he stay an atheist? Now, he describes himself as a Neoplatonist, which is a perfectly robust, justifiable metaphysical prior that is in between. It is a nuanced in-between position that is easy to defend. Most intelligent atheists have nuanced in-between positions undergirding their belief structure that are robust and easy to defend. The example I used in the other video was talking to Dharma Defender. We were watching a debate on math, and I'm pretty sure he describes himself as a nominalist who thinks Quine's argument is really impressed by Quine's argument. Okay, automatically I knew I was dealing with somebody. There's nothing I could do to attack that position. It's not the position I hold, but it's absolutely robust and defendable. I know that for a fact, and he probably thought about it over years. Quine is not just a name you kind of throw out there. You go talk to Debate Me Bro clowns, they have no idea who that is. No idea. And he impressed me a couple other ways. I started talking about comparative religion. I said, you should read Karen Armstrong and Houston Smith. He said, I've read both of them. I have both their books. I have their books. Okay, I'm dealing with somebody on a different level. I immediately recognized that. And sure enough, when we were watching the debate, there are three positions in math. This is what my metaphysics and math argument was trying to offer. Now, granted, I haven't got it up to speed. You don't have to go back and watch. It's not that great. I polish this up, get this really, really strong, and then you don't have to watch my video. I'm going to send Stephanie out, and she's going to kick your ass. I swear to God, I'm not going to bother debating anybody. I'm going to send Stephanie out to kick your ass. As long as she's convinced that this is going to work, then I'll send her out. Not going to get anybody to believe in God. That's the wrong thing to do. I'm not even sure that's an achievable goal. What you can do is get somebody to take their metaphysical priors out in the cold light of day and examine them and ask themselves key critical thinking questions. Are these coherent? Do they make sense? Are these robust and defendable positions? That's it. You see the logical structure of what I'm talking about? It's really rock solid, guys. It's a slam dunk, I promise. Why is it a slam dunk? Because intelligent atheists already do this. Thomas Nagel described himself as a Neoplatonist. I was really curious how he stayed an atheist. John Vervaeke, describes himself also probably as a Neoplatonist. Not sure, but I think so. Neoplatonism is a robust in-between position. It's like nominalism. It's like in math, for example, in the metaphysics of math, and I'll start going this in detail. I'm not going to say this all that clearly in this video yet, but I'll start explaining this clearly. You can be a Platonist. Platonist basically means you think that the transcendent realm is really there, okay? Or you can be a nominalist, which gives some sort of, you're dipping your tiny little toe in the transcendent realm to do math. That's what a nominalist kind of is. Tiny little, I acknowledge somewhat in a tiny little bit the reality of the transcendent realm, just a tiny little bit here. Why? Because you can't make sense without it. You can't do math without it. Mathematical fictional is an incoherent position. Promise. Incoherent, doesn't make any sense. Just like logical positivism is an incoherent position, doesn't make any sense. Quine started out trying to defend mathematical fictionalism and became a reluctant Platonist. That's his own words, a reluctant Platonist. Why? Because he recognized you have to, basically an atheist has to ask three key questions. You're going to have to process into your worldview either abstract objects or math or logic, laws of logic. Somehow they have to be incorporated in your thought process. And you have to ascribe some sort of reality to those transcendent categories somewhere, or your thought process won't make any coherent sense. Logical positivism came and went. Why? Because it's self-refuting. And so did Auguste Comte, C-O-M-T-E, the influencer. You barely heard of him, right? But meanwhile, we're still talking about Plato and we're still talking about Aristotle. Why? Because they were onto something really big. You have to dip your little toe into the transcendent realm in order to what? In order to make coherent sense at all. If you do not actively construct a metaphysical prior or a metaphysical philosophy undergirding for yourself, which all intelligent people sort of semi-consciously do anyways, all intelligent atheists already do it. Ben Watkins, for example, 2 days before I made this video, this is probably 3 weeks later at this point, but 2 days before I made this video, had a tweet, the hard problem of consciousness is one of the most vexing problems. I get it. It seems, I don't remember the exact wording, but it seems, consciousness seems in principle irreducible to strictly physical properties. Okay, so he's starting to get it. He's starting to get it. Now, there are three options on the table, right? You can be a physicalist. I just think that's the weakest option. And if you examine the problem clearly and start to think really clearly about the problem, that becomes even weaker of an option, which starts to leave you in a nuanced middle territory. I'm not saying you become a theist. I'm saying it puts you, and all intelligent philosophical atheists have made their compromise with this to one degree or another. You have to. Even Matt Dillahunty, as I said in his debate with Jay Dyer and Tyler Vila, said, yes, the laws of logic exist. And they're invisible, immaterial, and transcendent. Matt Dillahunty said that. Why? Because he had to. You cannot make coherent sense of reality without some dipping of your little toe into the transcendent realm, either by laws of logic or mathematical nominalism at the very least. Do you get it now? Do you get it now? There's no way an atheist is going to go full Platonist, but, Sir Roger Penrose is a mathematical Platonist. Most physicists are. And the key question in that is math discovered or invented? Discovered. Absolutely case closed. Almost every physicist will tell you that. Invented doesn't make any sense. Why? Because the invisible, immaterial, transcendent truth of math is not a human invention, it's a human discovery. You saw the argument the guy used 2 million years ago, there was no math. And the counter argument that I will use again, why? Because I think it's clear, I think it makes complete sense and underscores the point. 2 million years ago, there was no math, but 2 brontosaurus walked on a field, and 2 brontosaurus followed him onto the field. You'd have 4 brontosauruses. Even nobody there to write it down and symbolically represent that 4 as 2 plus 2 equals 4, but it was still 2 brontosaurus and 2 equaled 4. There's just nobody there to count it. It's not all that complex. It's only, see, that's why I say that the point isn't to get the atheist to God belief. The point is just to get the atheist thinking clearly about his metaphysical priors and discussing in the way that it can be discussed intelligently and cogently. Why? Because then the game is over. Then there are philosophical atheists, a la Ben Watkins or the guys I'm always talking about, who are closer in spirit to me. John Vervaeke is closer in spirit to me than he is to Aaron Ra, a lot closer. Most of your debate me bro atheists, most of your incoherent, let me throw out weird statement atheists, are really, really heavily influenced by logical positivism, whether they acknowledge it or not. Like I said, if you do not actively construct your philosophical, metaphysical priors, one will be constructed for you by your brain. It will take shards of information here and shards of information there and try to construct a coherent worldview out of it. If you do not actively guide it in the process by reading and thinking clearly, your worldview will be incoherent. Period. End of discussion, I promise. That's why that supposedly intelligent guy, Dr. Matthew Hunt, says all these weird things that don't make any sense at all and doesn't know he's doing it. Why? Because he's guided by the idea. He's saying a few times, philosophy isn't something, it's only science, something like that. For all philosophy means, dude, is an interpretive framework. Hello? All of you. All philosophy means is an interpretive framework. Doesn't have to mean anything else. You can't think without metaphysics. When Bernardo Castro was talking to Sabina Hofstenpepper and accusing her of smuggling metaphysical presuppositions, she was. Why? Because if you don't actively, you can't just say I'm a pure scientist. That's where science fell off the rails in the beginning of the 1920s. It's why it thinks quantum mechanics is so mysterious when it ain't. It's not all that mysterious and trippy. It's just incompatible with physicalism / materialism. That's the only trippy aspect. If you throw out that paradigm, quantum mechanics makes a lot more sense. Now, I'm not saying idealism is right. I'll get into a whole, there's Jeffrey Williams 100 years ahead. You're 100 years of everybody else, Jeff, if you're listening. I'm not even going to start talking about that yet. I agree with everything you said in that series of tweets. I'm not sure if anybody else, why I showed to you other guys, you seem to not even notice that it was really on point. Anyways, I won't get into it right now. In the meantime, though, Jeff, we need a placeholder metaphysics. Why? Because if you don't have a metaphysics, your brain falls apart. You think incoherent, crazy thoughts and think they make sense. Because your brain tries to construct a coherent worldview for you if you don't do it for yourself. If you don't actively build one. So, presuppositional done correctly. I get this video was a little bit discombobulated and all over the place. Keep in mind, this is a Craig Reed video. Ultimately, all I'm doing is I used to shout at a sunrise over the beautiful lake. Now I shout at whatever image is in the background this time. That's how my videos roll. That's how I roll, kids. There's no getting around it. But there's some really, really solidly good points in this video that will be cleaned up, polished off, and honed into precise, devastatingly powerful arguments for what? For examining your metaphysical priors before they examine you. Figure out what you think before you fall for anything. Atheists already say they do this, just most of them don't. Every atheist would say this is the paradigm of atheists that almost every atheist would say. I want to believe what's true, and I want to have justifications for the things I believe, and I want to proportion my belief to the evidence and my confidence to the evidence. Okay, that's a perfectly legitimate paradigm. That's a really good one. The problem is most atheists don't do it. They do it on the surface. I believe that, whatever. You put gas in a car, the combustion engine works because I've seen it so many times, okay? Yeah, nobody's arguing that. But the actual metaphysical priors undergirding their beliefs, they almost never take out in the cold light of day and examine. The smart philosophical atheists do that automatically all the time. Why? Because smart, intelligent people generally do that anyways. That's what differentiates them. And if they're book smart, that's what differentiates the truly smart from just the book smart. Why? Because the truly smart are taking the things that they learn in books and they're kind of adapting it and trying to match it to life. That's why Plato has survived the test of time. That's why Aristotle has survived the test of time. By the way, that's why the Bible has survived the test of time. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. No, it isn't. Yeah, it is. Book of Fairy Tales. Why the Bible has survived the test of time. Because really intelligent people do that anyways. They take a philosophy class and they come back and they talk to their friends about that philosophy that night in the bar and they try and match it up to life. And they actually run a series of tests in conversations with other people. That's what intelligent people automatically do. That's why it's usually fun. That's why I hate debates usually. Why? Because it's not fun as a contest. It's fun as a powwow, where you're all just chatting at the college campus and some smart friend throws out this idea and you kind of run ideas past each other. It's fun as a conversation. It's not really fun as a debate. It's really not. I don't consider it fun as a debate. I'm not that interested in debates. Really not. Don't really care who wins debates. Some people don't believe me, I don't. I barely watch them. I watch debates to see, is this topic I'm interested in? Is this person credible and intelligent on that topic and worth my time? That's it. That's the only criteria I have for a debate. And that criteria usually only lasts about a half an hour. I can't tell you. That's why somebody once complained that my analysis debates I always would end them with I'll finish it now analyzing it because I only watch about a half an hour of debate. They get tired of watching it and not really want to go back to it. Why? Because there's not a lot going on there. It's the substance of the argumentation underneath the debate, and that's going on in the community at large. That's really the issue. And there are metaphysical priors that are floating around in atheist land that are incoherent and don't make any sense. That's why I think ultimately, I'm going to wrap this up, 36 minutes. I go on too long with these videos. This one will be shorter. That's why I think ultimately presupposition is going to be the way to go. It's going to be a really powerful argument because it's not demanding too much of the atheists. It's just demanding that atheists do what they already say they do, apply it to your metaphysical priors, and do what the smart atheists do. Smart atheists already do it. John Vervaeke already does it. Thomas Nagel already does it. The guys I mentioned too often already do it. I swear to God. Ryan, Ryan is the other guy in Real Atheology. There's another guy in Real Atheology. I'm pretty sure it's dry apologist, honestly. Ryan, let's be clear. You are a dry apologist, correct? I'm almost positive it's dry apologist. But he said something that is going to be the nub of a really insightful statement. It is intuition impasse. That's what's actually going on between a Christian and an atheist. It's an intuition impasse. No, Pine Creek has this thing, we're all alike. No, we're not. We have different philosophical commitments that are really strong in each of us. A committed naturalist is nothing like a theist. A committed naturalist is always going to find, this is why the resurrection arguments ain't that great. Why? Because the premise is flawed. I can pile up material facts and it's going to switch on supernatural belief in the atheist. They don't believe in the supernatural at all. No amount of material facts is going to move that needle. Promise. In order to move that needle, you'd have to ask Pine Creek, probably the most resolute in his I won't believe. A lot of atheists have middle grounds where they believe some supernatural and not others. A lot of atheists have middle ground nuanced positions, period. By the way, the more you find that out, the easier it will be for you to make headway. Why? Because most people are reasonable. Most people are reasonable, or not necessarily reasonable, but you can find a reasonable side to almost everybody. Believe me, that's how I survived in weird, dangerous, difficult situations. In the real world, I'm street smart, like peerlessly street smart. I really am. I really am. I don't even know how I do it sometimes. I can go anywhere, get along with anybody. Here I'm, whatever. Twitter throws me up. Boomer. Twitter makes me a little dumb, and YouTube and all the technology dumbs me down a lot. A lot. The real life, I would go anywhere. I don't do it anymore. Why? Because I don't really want to. But back in the day, I'd go anywhere, hang out with anybody under the sun, maneuver in and out, talk my way in and out of almost any situation under the sun, really easily, without even thinking about it. Survived in situations where I was drunk off my ass and wasn't even at risk, where another guy, anyone other than me, hanging around the hood at 3 o'clock in the morning would have been killed. And it didn't even come close to happening to me. Never even was in peril. I was in peril once or twice. But, anybody other than me would have been killed. I'm pretty sure, or jumped or something would have happened to him. Me, I was drunk off my ass all those times. Blacked out, pretty much. So, yeah, for a season, things got really dark in my life. Anyways, so those are the facts, kids. I really think we're going to clean these up, dust them off. They're going to be really powerful. And all they're going to ask the atheists to do is do what atheists already say they do automatically, proportion their beliefs to the evidence. Dust off their metaphysical priors, bring them on the cold light of day and examine them. Go, do these actually make sense? Do they correspond to the reality? Are they true and valid, and can I rely on them? That's it. That's all you're going to do. That's all we're going to do. Something atheists should be doing anyways. It's called thinking clearly. Something an atheist should be doing anyways. And then we will turn all of those atheists into philosophical atheists. Philosophical atheists are more ally than opponent. End of discussion. I can hang out with Joe and the crew, and we can talk about zombie films for the next 4 years. We don't even have to talk about, how great my Sky Fairy is and how much he loves him and all that good stuff. We don't. Jesus loves you so much, guys. Shut up, Craig. See, they don't even want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. Jesus loves you so much, guys. He loves you so much. Shut up, Craig. So, there you have it, kids. Pretty sure that was pretty clear and lucid, but I'll do a listen through and see if you're listening to me now, then I posted this video. Sometimes I don't post them. Why? Because even sometimes for me, they're a little bit too ranty. Like, when was I getting out there? Where did I go with that one? Where was I going with that one? Sometimes even for me, the videos are a little bit like, what on earth? It's like my wife says, I swear to God, my wife says to me 50 times a day, what are you babbling about? What are you just saying all this? Because I say all this crazy stuff to my wife on purpose just to see how she processes it. Story I'll say for her, and I swear to God, I do it all the time. Just say weird stuff to try and trip her out and see what she makes and see how she handles it. Basically test her patience, jerk her chain, is what I'm more or less doing. And I have I play it really well though. There's a line I can't cross because I used to do it to my sister and my mother, my older sister and my mother all the freaking time. All the time. Just say crazy weird stuff to trip them out. See how they test their patience. I do it with my wife all the time too. I know when I'm really good at getting that line before she gets unbelievably exasperated. She's very patient. I swear to God, she's really patient. But I really test it. And then when she goes, I'm not your mother and I'm not your sister, then I back down. Then I've gone too far, then I got to back off for like 20 minutes. 20 minutes, then I start up again. Swear to God, I do it all the time. Try to, just say weird stuff, see how she handles it. I can't think of any good ones offhand. I mean, they're great. When I start telling those ones, some of them are awesome. Just crazy stuff. I don't know. Anyway, so there you go, kids. That's all for now. As I said before, the Mass has ended. Go in peace. Amen.